Welcome to the hands-on session on varying length arguments in Python. In the last video, we have seen various types of arguments that are possible in Python. So like we have seen what positional arguments are and what default arguments are, and in addition we have seen how it is possible to jumble the order of argument passing to a function with the help of keyword arguments. In this video, we'll see what variable length arguments are and what are the different ways to pass these variable length arguments in Python. So these variable length arguments allows us to send varying number of arguments to functions. So usually the number of arguments that are to be passed to the function is fixed. But by using this variable length arguments concept, it is possible to pass arguments that are varying in length. That is, the number of arguments to be passed to the function need not to be fixed anymore. So now we'll try to see what these varying length arguments are and how they are helpful to pass unknown number of arguments to the functions. And these variable length arguments are of two types. They can be either keyword arguments or they can be of positional arguments. So first of all, we'll see what positional variable length arguments are. To understand what varying length arguments are, so consider this standard function which takes a single argument. So the function fun is defined with a single parameter, and this function needs to be called with one argument as the function is defined with a single parameter. Here if you observe, the value 10 is passed as an argument to the function fun. Now let's call this function and execute. So if you observe the output, the function is called without any issue. But in certain situations, I'm not very sure of how many number of arguments I need to pass to the function. So in that situation, is there any way to pass the arbitrary number of arguments to the function? Say for example, this function fun should work when I pass a single argument or two arguments or n number of arguments, or even in certain situations, I don't pass any arguments also. So in that case also this function fun should work. Python provides a special feature that is a varying length arguments, where the function can receive variable number of arguments. So how this variable length arguments can be achieved is just place a asterisk symbol before the parameter. Now if you consider this example, the parameter a is prepended with the symbol asterisk. So which indicates that this parameter a is treated as a variable length parameter. That is, this parameter can receive variable number of arguments. That is, the same function fun can be called with a single parameter, with two parameters, or with multiple number of parameters also, or even you can call the same function without passing even a single argument. That is how in Python functions can be defined with variable length arguments. So now let's call this function by passing variable number of arguments. So consider these function calls where the same function fun is called with variable number of arguments. So that is, here I am passing a single argument, here 2, here 3, and here 0 arguments. So now let's execute this code and see. So if you observe, in all the cases the function is executed without any issue. So you need to understand one thing. Inside this function fun, the variable a is treated as the tuple, and whatever the number of arguments, that is the variable number of arguments you are passing, will be packed together as a single argument as a tuple, and that will be copied to a. So that is how the parameter a can receive variable number of arguments. So here if you observe, so when we execute this code in all the function calls, the variable a is treated as a tuple. So here, here, and here, in all the cases the variable a is treated as a tuple, and the arguments are copied to the tuple and you are displaying that tuple. Here you can observe the arguments that you are passing are enclosed within the parenthesis to indicate that the variable a is of type tuple. So you can iterate the for loop over the variable I and you can display individual arguments, or you can even apply various operations on the individual arguments. So now consider this example where I am iterating over every individual argument of the tuple a. Now I hope you understand what variable length arguments are and how a function defined with a single parameter can accept variable number of arguments. So here the function fun is defined with a single parameter, but as the parameter is prepended with this asterisk symbol, the function can be called by passing single parameter, two parameters, three parameters, or even without passing any parameter also. So here this asterisk symbol indicates that the parameter can receive variable number of arguments or arbitrary length arguments, and inside this function the parameter a is treated as a tuple. That's what we understand based on the discussion so far. So here the arguments that are passed while calling the function, they are similar to the positional parameters. That's how these kind of variable length arguments are known as a positional varying length arguments. And now let's see how we can pass the variable length keyword arguments. Consider the function definition fun where the parameter is prepended with two asterisk symbols. So the asterisk symbols prepended before the parameters indicate that they can receive variable number of parameters. When you prepend the parameter with a single asterisk symbol, that indicate that they can receive variable number of positional arguments, whereas the parameter that is prepended with two asterisk symbols, that indicates that the parameter can receive variable number of keyword arguments. That is, here also this function can be called by passing variable number of arguments. That is, you can call this function by providing any number of arguments, but in this case the arguments that are to be passed are of type keyword arguments. They are no more the positional arguments, they should be of type keyword arguments. So inside this function fun, the parameter A is treated as a dictionary. In the earlier case where the parameter is prepended with single asterisk symbol, so the parameter A is treated as a tuple. But in this case, so the parameter is prepended with two asterisk symbols and this is treated as a dictionary inside this function fun. So now let's call this function and see. So if you observe, the same function fun is called with single parameter here, with two different parameters in the second function call, whereas here in the third function call it is called with the three different arguments, whereas in the last case there are no parameters that are passed to this function. But in all these cases the same function fun can be called. But if you closely observe, every argument that you are passing is a pair of values. However, you did in case of the keyword arguments, you are passing the arguments in the same manner. That is how this function is able to receive variable number of keyword arguments. In the pair of arguments, the first value indicates the keyword and the second argument indicates the value, and the keywords can be of any names. Now let's execute this code and see. On execution, this code works without any issue. That is, all these function calls are valid. So inside the function you are checking the type of the parameter A. In all the cases the parameter A is treated as a dict variable. So that is how the parameter which is prepended with two asterisk symbols, they are treated as dictionaries inside those functions. And if you observe, when you pass a single argument, a pair of keyword and the value, and those pair of values become a single element in the dictionary. Here S1 is a keyword and 101 is a value, and with that value and the keyword pair, a single element is created in the dictionary. And similarly, in the second case, when you are passing two different keyword and the value pairs, and they become the keyword and the value pairs in the dictionary. So that is how it is possible to call the function with variable number of arguments, where the arguments you are passing are of type keyword arguments. So that is the reason why these variable number of arguments are known as the keyword variable length arguments. Now let's iterate over the dictionary and see. So you can use a for loop and the in parameter to iterate over the items of the dictionary. Here if you observe, items method can be used to iterate over both the keyword and the value pairs. As this items method returns one of the keyword and the value pairs as a tuple, so we need two different index variables to receive the pair of values. So I, j guess one of the keyword and the value pairs, and those values I am going to display. Now let's execute this code and see. So here if you observe, so every element, that is the keyword and the value pair of the dictionary, are displayed in separate lines as we iterated over every keyword and the value pairs. So that is how Python allows us to define functions that can receive variable number of arguments. When the parameter is defined by prepending a single asterisk symbol, then that is treated as a tuple inside the function, and you can pass variable number of positional arguments while calling the function. And in the other case, when the parameter is prepended with two asterisk symbols, then the parameter is treated as a dictionary inside the function, and you can pass variable number of keyword arguments to that parameter. Now I hope you understand what variable length arguments are and how you can achieve them to define functions that can receive variable number of arguments. Thank you for watching this video.